here with Simon Bellamy, next guest on the Lax Goalie Rap podcast. We're going to talk all things lacrosse goalie, talking shop. Simon, welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Damon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for reaching out and making this happen. And I'm always eager to interview more Canadian guests because you're probably going to be number 3 or number 4 out of what are we at now? 85 episodes. So that is not many. So welcome. We've had, well, let me see if you can guess. Who do you think we've had from the Canadian side on the podcast?
I know you've had Dylan Ward and Drake Porter. Those are the 2 guys.
Yeah, those are the only 2 that come to mind. So maybe you are number 3. But anyway, let's talk about you. For those that don't know you, Simon, do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Simon Bellamy. I am the goaltender for the Brock University men's lacrosse team up here in St. Catharines. It's a university just north of Buffalo, over near Niagara Falls. I'm originally from Ottawa. I did my undergrad at a university called Carleton in our nation's capital. And then, my lacrosse journey brought me down here to St. Catharines, where I now have the fortune of playing on one of the best teams in the country.
Nice. And one of the things I did learn from, interviewing those Canadian guys is you guys really grow up, with a stick in your hand, whether that be like lacrosse in the spring and then, ice hockey in the winter. Was that your childhood? Was that kind of how you grew up?
Absolutely not. No. Oh. I had a very unorthodox beginning to lacrosse. So I started playing lacrosse, Damon, the first time I held a lacrosse stick, I was 16 years old.
Nice.
I played hockey and soccer growing up. And then, 2 of my closest friends in the world came up to me when we were in grade 10. It was the spring of grade 10. And they said, Simon, our high school lacrosse team needs a goalie. And I said, I don't know anything about lacrosse. And they go, well, it's fine. You're a pretty good ball hockey goalie and you're a pretty good soccer goalie and you have a couple screws loose. So, you'll do all right. So I'm like, all right, sure. So I come out to practice and everybody's kind of looking at me like, oh God, this kid's in for shock. And they get me suited up with not lacrosse goalie equipment, but back catcher equipment. So I had a jock and the back catcher chest protector and the back catcher like flat helmet. And I go out there and I'm lumbering out there with all this weird gear. And I see the best kid on the team take a step down shot off the crossbar and the ball goes 40, 50 feet in the air. And I'm like, oh my, what did I get myself into? And, that first season I soaked a lot of rubber. I didn't really understand the game. It's a stressful position and I was ready to quit. And then I came back in grade 11. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try player. And then I was like, you know what? No, the team needs a goalie. And that's when I really hit my stride. I was a natural ball stopper, lots of saves. And then I was like, all right, well, we're going to take this as far as we can go. Like friends were coming up to me by the end of high school. They're like, you got to stick with this. You got to stick with this. Like, you're good. Like, you got to believe us. So I went and walked on to Carleton men's lacrosse, battled for a spot there. And then I progressed through my career there with a number of accolades, developing every year. And then I needed to go to teachers college. So I was like, hey, let's take this another step further. I reached out to one of the best teams in the country, Brock. I said, would you guys like to have me? And they said, absolutely. And now I'm here.
Nice. I love it. Going back to that story of how you got started, it sounds very similar to my story. And I remember like our team needed a backup goalie. And so they put me in and there was like one drill, like I just getting started. Like it was the day after I was going to say, I said I would play goalie and they said like, Damon, all right, just stand in the goal. I didn't even have any like pads on anything, just like stand in the goal for this drill. And then like one guy shot one at me, like not hard and not like trying to hit me. But I remember this like feeling in my stomach of like, oh my goodness, like what in the world did I just sign up for?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you went through something similar, but how did you, how did you overcome that? How did you learn? You kind of mentioned that like something clicked that following season. What did you do? How'd you learn?
Um, to be completely honest, Damon, the difference between the first season that I played and that I ever played, and then my second season ever, was I fell in love with the game. Um,
Yeah.
this position is 100% easier when you fall in love with the game. Eating rubber, getting scored on a lot, right? High scoring game of lacrosse. Um, being on an island, right? As the only goalie out there, all that is worth it if you like love the game unconditionally. So something, I don't know if just I was born to play lacrosse or what. Thank God I found it. I know it was at a late age, but thank God I found it. And yeah, just that like that passion, right? That's what drives you. That's what keeps you in that net, despite
Yeah.
the challenges, right? So I think that definitely is what like really once I fell in love with the game, that's what like propelled me into the next couple of years of my career.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that's a great answer. It sounds like you had passion. It sounds like I had passion. Do you think that's something that people have or they don't have, or do you think it's something you can kind of learn?
Um, I think people are definitely born or begin with a base amount of passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
My father is an avid tennis player. He's in love with the game. He wanted me to play that growing up, and I could not get off the tennis court fast enough. I was like, no,
Yeah.
right? Like this
Yeah.
just isn't for me. Um, so I do think it's a little bit of nature and nurture.
Yeah.
So people are going to be drawn towards specific sports or specific, subjects in school. But then on top of that, I think that the more you do something and the more that that sport becomes a part of who you are, the more that passion shines through. So it's almost like
Yeah.
a feedback loop, right? The better you get at it, the more you enjoy it and the more passionate you become.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. I've never asked that question on this podcast before, because I've never heard that quote about just falling in love with the game being my sort of my catalyst to being better. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, I studied this, I studied that," and now that I think about it, like a lot of the reason that I got better is exactly what you just said. Is because I love the sport. I had the passion for sports from the beginning for me, right? Like my dad put that in me, and I always loved sports like soccer, baseball, basketball growing up. And then when I found lacrosse later on in life, kind of like you, I was like this 18-year-old kid that like couldn't wait to go hit the wall and just play because I loved it so much. So I think as much as you can find that passion, you're going to be a lot better. And I 100% agree with what you said. Once you start then demonstrating a little bit of skill and showing some progress, like that passion, it's like dumping gas on the passion fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, cool. So you had the passion, but you got to learn the skill somewhere. Like where was there any sort of goalie coaching that you got? Was there some clips that you watched? Like how did you go about actually, learning like, where do I stand? How do I move? Like all the stuff that us lacrosse goalies need to do.
Yeah. So I have never, I've never actually had a personal goalie coach. Every head coach or assistant coach along the way that I've had has kind of told me, yeah, I don't really know much about goaltending. Just stop the ball, right?
Yeah.
Stop the ball, throw good outlets. Um, but I take pride in that because of where I've gotten to today without, I've got, like you're kind of like a self-made man when you don't have a goalie coach. Um, so to reach like an elite level of sport without like a specific goalie coach or somebody to kick you in the butt, You know, it makes me proud. But how I did it, Damon, was well, at first I always make a joke. I call myself, I'm a YouTube goalie. I'm a YouTube
Yeah.
goalie. So in
Yeah.
high school, I would watch hours, hours and hours and hours of YouTube lacrosse videos, behind the scenes, highlights, full games if I could find them. Um, and just watch, right? Just watch and absorb in as much of what those goalies who are so good, right? Like being in high school, like watching Division 1 and pro goalies, like those guys are like eons beyond you. So watching like everything, right? How do they move? How do they carry themselves? What do they do after a goal? What do they do after a save, right? And I would, my favorite thing to do would be to type in lacrosse goalie save highlights and then watch, like, how did this goalie make this save? Why did he make this save? Stance, step, angles. But then another thing that I did, and I think this is one of the most important things I did in my at the beginning of my career, was I would go on YouTube and I would type in uh, like lacrosse goal highlights, and I'd watch what the goalie did wrong. I'd watch.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how are these goalies in the player highlights moving differently than the goalies in the goalie save highlights? And then before I really knew what a hitch was, or a false step was, or dropping your hands was, I was identifying these things. I just didn't like have a name for them, right?
Right.
So this, by making the connection between what I was doing, what, like, once I saw goals getting scored on other goalies, I was able to identify reasons why I was getting scored on. And then on top of that, like Scotty Raj, Drew Adams, like there's a lot of drills on YouTube, right?
Yep.
A lot of drills. So now I'm pretty self-proficient. I'm very intuitive with my training and with my where I'm at with my game. So I can almost kind of like um, manipulate or create new drills based on like my strengths and weaknesses and what I believe I need to develop. But back when I didn't have that, you know, that knowledge of the game, yeah, YouTube drills out the wazoo. I watched hundreds of hours of them, and I just did them.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a very high level of I don't know what the right word, like consciousness, just because most of the times when goalies are starting, like you don't realize what you're doing wrong. You know what I mean? Like you could be dropping your hands on every shot, or you could be off balance, you know, when the shot comes. And it's really like the, you know, that's a whole other level to then realize that, all right, that's why I gave up the save. Most of the times with youth goalies, like you got to film them, you got to tape them and show them that hitch or show them that off balance before they finally realize it. But that's pretty cool that you're able to figure that out all on your own.
Yeah, and
Congrats.
I mean, it wasn't for a lack of trying, Damon. We're talking about like thousands of hours, right,
Sure.
of reps and reps
Good.
and reps and reps, and then you just start to realize. But I always tell you know, young kids that I coach and stuff, I have been my own biggest coach. Like the guys that shoot on me, like when we get out there and train, they'll hear me. Like when they score a goal on me, I'll be like, oh, step to the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, loosen up, hold your post, right? So like because I haven't had a goalie coach,
Yeah.
I need to hold myself to the standard that a goalie coach would hold me if he or she was there.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, most kids need to do that, unfortunately. Like the game's grown quite a bit and there's a lot more goalie coaches and a lot more knowledge out there. But like the bottom line is there's just not enough goalie coaches to go around. And if you're fortunate enough to have one, awesome. Like awesome. Great.
Yeah.
But if you're not, you have to do what you just said, which is, you know, get the drills yourself, like be responsible for your own training and hold yourself to the same accountability that a coach would. So I love that. That's awesome. What do you love most about being a lacrosse goalie?
Oh man, how much time you got?
Yeah,
Um,
as much time as you need.
I love the respect that it gains you from your teammates and those in the lacrosse community. You know, they just they look at you differently. You know, sometimes it's like you look at you like you're crazy, But other times, like they look at you like, you know, that you're willing to do what a lot of people in this sport aren't willing to do. So definitely the respect that it gains you. Um, I love, there's no feeling in this world like making a save. You know it. I know it. Every goalie that's been on this podcast knows it, right? Like that is
Right.
one of the number one reasons that I like go out there and I get in the net every single day, right? Is because it doesn't matter if it's in a shoot around, a practice, or a big game. Like the feeling of stopping the momentum of a shot in your stick, right? And taking a
Mm-hmm.
goal away from someone else,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling is just unmatched. And
Yeah.
then lastly, just you know, the effect that you have on the game, right? Like the ability to steal goals, right? Not only is a save, it's like taking away a goal from the other team, right? Commanding the defense, running a good breakout. You know, if you like responsibility, if you are a person who likes to carry weight on their shoulders, there's very few things like knowing the outcome of a game depends on your performance. And you know, you got like goalies like us wear that as a badge of honor, right? Like, you know, this is my game to win or lose. So yeah, those three reasons for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. One of the things that I instantly fell in love with was that respect that you get for being a lacrosse goalie. And you could be, you know, at just a barbecue after the game and talking to members of the other team, and they're like, "Hey, what position are you? Oh, you're the goalie. Oh, you know, respect." Like there's a different, you know,
Yeah.
level of respect that you get. And yeah, they think you know you're crazy because they don't want to do it, but they respect you for that. And that was always really cool to me. Um, and I've, you know, on the best lacrosse teams, like that is the culture, I think, right? Where like, you know, go get the goalie after the game. Goalie's first in the handshakes, like always kind of respecting the goalie because, you know, we take a lot of bumps and bruises, and especially at, you know, for these youth kids, like if they don't get that respect, then you know it's tough.
Yeah.
You got to balance the good and the bad. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly right. That's one thing at the how do I put this? The more mature players, right? Like you said, the best teams, the elite teams, right? The Division One, the pros, the college ball. That respect is there, but absolutely, it's I can imagine it's difficult for young goalies because I coach younger teams, and it just doesn't seem like that like deep respect is there yet. Like it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, they're the goalie, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
as you get older and the shots get harder, obviously, um, that respect begins to deepen a little bit more. So I think
Yeah.
you're absolutely right that we need to facilitate that in the younger players.
Totally. And I do think it's on the coach. I mean, I coached youth teams, and because I was a goalie, like you better believe like that was the culture on our team. Like we made sure after the game we go give the goalie a hug. So yeah, I think, you know, when youth players are learning, like they don't know. They just don't know, right? And the coach and you as a coach need to sort of instill that as part of the culture.
Yeah,
So
I couldn't agree more.
yeah. So I wanted to talk. So then you ended up, you know, and this was in high school, and you end up playing in high school, and then you get to college, and you walk on to the team, right?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that process like? So if someone's out there listening, saying, "Oh, cool, like you know, I've got some experience. I'm pretty good. Like, I want to play in college. Like, how do I walk on?"
So I sent an email to the email that was on the team's website, Carlton Ravens. And I just said, hey, you know, I'm a goalie. I've been playing for this many years. I love lacrosse. I really want to, you know, shoot my shot. Whenever being up here in Canada, exposure's a little bit lower. And then
Mm.
Ottawa, especially, I used to call it, I used to joke, I'd call Ottawa a not bed. You know how there's hotbeds? So
Yeah.
Ottawa is a not bed.
Yeah.
Um, so you have to reach out. You have to make it known that you want to be a part of that team. You want to push yourself as far as you can go. And by reaching out and letting a coach know that, you're already at an advantage, because now the coach knows, all right, this guy wants it. And, whenever I email a coach, or whenever I used to email coaches, to talk about coming to their program, I would never, ever say, I want to play for your program. I want to play, because that insinuates that they are going to give you a spot. Every time I email them, I say, I want to give my best shot. I want to try out for this team. I want to give it a go. I want to throw my hat in the ring. Right. And that lets the coaches know that you want to compete, that you're a fighter. You know what I mean? Nothing's given to you. So yeah, I recommend any goalie out there who's listening to this, who is on the fence about shooting their shot. There is the feeling of getting rejected is so much less painful, in my opinion, than the feeling of wasted potential. Never getting to shoot your shot, never getting to try out. And when I got there, Damon, there was 4 goalies. One of them was Team Ontario, who went on to be the greatest goalie partner I've ever had. And honest to God, probably the number one person who has helped develop my game. And then the other 2 goalies were just other goalies from the area. And, so I was a medium fish from my high school and going into a big pond. And I just gave it everything I got. That's all you can do. To those listening out there, all you can do is just go and give it everything you got. Because if you do that, you did nothing wrong, even if you get cut. And the coaches ended up saying, they moved, one of the goalies was a returning goalies, guys, and they moved him to attack. He was a player in box, and they're like, yeah, like this kid wants it, so we're gonna take him and move you up to attack. And then me and that Team O goalie battled it out my freshman year for the starting position. We split the games, absolutely battled. And then the next year he came up and he's like, Simon, I'm older than you, and I just don't want to soak rubber anymore. Like, the cage is yours. And then I started the next 3 years. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome story. Yeah. Awesome story. I love what you said there about, I mean, if anyone's listening to this and thinking about, giving it a shot to play college lacrosse, and it's like, should I do it or should I not? Like, yeah, like do it. Cause like, you don't want to live with that regret of like, oh man, I was in my athletic prime, 18, 19, whatever, 20 years old. And I never gave it a shot, So I love that. I love that feeling. And then if you get cut, you get cut, right? It wasn't meant to be, but at least you don't have to live with that regret of saying like, damn, I never even tried.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Love that.
That's something, that's something that I personally am not willing to live with. So
same. That's cool. And then, so when you say, so you emailed the coach and he says, yeah, like, come on out for a tryout. Is that kind of like, is that how it sort of progressed there? And then, well, let me ask that.
Yeah. I mean, so I love Carleton. It's where I did my undergrad. It's the team that I poured my heart and soul into for 4 years. I was the captain for 3 of those 4 years. Gave it everything I got, Damon, but they've been last place for a long time. Like, so recruiting was a lot more casual just because the team was not stellar. So they needed players, right? Our league up here, CUFLA, Canadian University Field Lacrosse Association, has some elite talent. You're allowed to play pro box and play in CUFLA. So our league's full of NLL players. But the difference between CUFLA and D1 is the depth is not quite there, right? Yeah. So teams are always looking to fill their practice rosters and their third line and their fourth line, right? Yeah. So this is why walking on is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But, you know, you hear stories in the States, right? Sergio Salcido moved up from Florida to Syracuse and he walked on to Syracuse, right? So you know, I've never done the NCAA route, but I can only imagine that, you know, and I know it costs a lot to go out of state, et cetera, but, you know, if you're already going to a school and they have a lacrosse team and there are open tryouts, like, why not get out there?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You mentioned then like giving it all you've got in that tryout. What does that mean to you? Like if there's a young kid out there who's listening said, "All right, give it all I got." Like, yeah, of course I'm going to try and make every save that I can, but it's got to be something more than that, right?
Yeah. Um, I think giving it all that you have, everything that you've got in you is, again, the willingness to soak shots, right? You know, in a tryout or a big game, I will eat a step down with my throat. Like that, you know, that's the mentality that you have to have. And it's pretty easy to get into when you're there, right? When you're there and the adrenaline's firing at a tryout or a big game,
Mm-hmm.
like absolutely to soak a ball with any part of your body. Um, I also think that you have to hold your head high at all times,
Yeah.
whether things go your way or they don't. Giving it everything you've got, that means physically and emotionally, right? So, like showing those watching the type of athlete that you can be. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
can give it everything that you've got physically, everything you've got emotionally, mentally, right? Coaches and fans and your teammates are going to notice that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, great answer. Great answer. So then you mentioned you played with the team Ottawa goalie, kind of side by side, and you guys battled. What did you learn from him in terms of both? What did you learn from him on goalie wise and kind of mental wise?
So he actually played Team Ontario. So
Ontario,
Ontario
sorry,
is like a state, right? So it'd be like playing for Team Maryland.
got it. Yeah.
His name was Adam Bridle. To this day, I can text him up and talk to him. He doesn't really play lacrosse anymore, but he still knows a heck of a lot about it. And when I came to Carleton and me and him were the two goalies, I was coming out of high school. I have always had incredible reaction time, incredible hand-eye, and sort of like fearlessness, right? Like the willingness to like soak the balls, right? And from those three things, I've always been a natural ball stopper.
Hmm.
That's something that I've never had trouble with. But was I a good mental athlete in my freshman year, 17, 18 years old, coming to college? No, not at all. So what I learned from Adam was all those like tricky, hard to master mental tricks, right? Being the best. He always used to say, be the best you can be on that day, right? We cannot perform our best every day. It's just not feasible, right?
Hmm.
And that's something that I like always struggled with. I'm like, why was I this good yesterday, but I'm not that good today? Um, and Adam always used to tell me when I would get upset, he's like, just be the best that you can be today, right? Whatever that might be, however good that might be, whatever the circumstances around that are, just be the best that you can be this day.
Hmm.
Um, he also he taught me how to be a good teammate. He taught me how, because goalie is so tough because your teammates, your goalie partners are your biggest competition. You're a band of brothers that's also all fighting each other for the starting position,
Yeah.
right? So he taught me how to separate that competitive, I want that starting spot mentality from your actual performance, right? Your performance is your own. your goalie partner's performance is their own. There's absolutely nothing personal about it, right? Push each other, challenge each other. But at the end of the day, you're all just doing what you can to be the best that you can be. And then it's up to the coach who's in there on game day, right? So those are the two things that I'll never forget from my buddy Adam. And yeah, I hope they help goalies out there listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So solid. Um, yeah, I've been, studying a lot of sports psychology and mental stuff. And one of the lessons that you see like over and over is this idea of like the scarcity mindset versus this abundance mindset. And I don't know if you've ever studied that or heard it, but like the scarcity mindset says like there can only be one winner, right? So if you think about like a group of lacrosse goalies, like there can only be one starter. And if it's not me, then I'm the loser, right? There can only be, and if I don't get it, then I'm the loser. That's that scarcity mindset. And the abundance mindset says, listen, like I'm going to lift everyone else up. Like there's plenty to go around. Yeah, there's only one starter, but we can have a lot of winners, quote unquote, right? Like we can all lift each other up. And I think to me, that's what being a good teammate is all about, is not having this attitude of like, yeah, I didn't get the start. Woe is me, right? It's lifting everyone up, and it kind of sounds like that's what Adam was kind of teaching you in a way.
Yes, absolutely. Because
Yeah,
you're competing against each other, but you're also teammates. And at the
right.
end of the day, it's about if the logo on the front is winning and not the name on the back, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you can be a good backup, if you can encourage the guy in front of you to be the best that they can be when they're on the field, that is going to benefit your team, and the team as a whole is going to get more wins.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome. Um, and then so after, and you have to help me with the name of the school. So then you went to you transferred to another school, which is where you're at right now, doing kind of a post grad type program.
Yeah. So
How did that come to be?
So I knew I wanted to go to teachers college. I've always wanted to be a teacher, and the school that I was at, Carleton, didn't offer teachers college. So I'm like, all right, let's see where else I can play lacrosse. I'm not gonna lie, I picked the school based on the lacrosse, not the teachers college. There's plenty of teachers college in Ontario. But one thing that's interesting about our league up here, Damon, Kufla, is it has no eligibility. Which is the biggest difference between our league and the NCAA. We have guys that play 4 years of D1 and then they come back and then they play in Kufla.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Like you can
So
play as many years as you want in Kufla.
yeah, yeah. I have sort of a kind of like an honor rule going where I have 2 years of teachers college. This is my second, but I
Yeah.
lost my season because of COVID. So I
Yeah.
told myself, I'm like 6 years. All right. Undergrad 4, 2 years at teachers college, 6 years. And then either, next step, try out for some pro teams or, just go play some summer ball. And then COVID happened, and we're every year we're a favorite to win the national championship. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving on the COVID year. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. So I'm
Right.
gonna come back in the fall. We're a fall season up here.
Mm,
So like the NCAA guys lost their spring last year, we lost our fall this year.
got it.
Right. So I'm gonna go back in the fall of 2021. But anyways, to answer your question, I'm like, all right, let's see where I want to go. And Brock is a perennial powerhouse. They're first in the country, maybe second on a bad year for them, for us now. And they're gritty. And St. Catharines is a lacrosse hotbed. Like the talent down here, Damon, is unmatched. It's like the Maryland of Canada. Like I shoot with a guy on the Chaos like 3 times a week.
Oh, cool.
Tyson Bell. And then like dozens of NLL players. So I was like, you know what? I want to go to Brock. The league heard that I was leaving Carleton. I did get recruited by a number of other schools. They were like, "Oh, come do your teacher's college here, man." But I stuck with my original favorite of Brock, and it has like there's never been a better decision in my life than coming to this school, because it's like absolutely catapulted my lacrosse to the like highest level.
Awesome. How so? Just by being around that level of competition?
Yeah. So I came here. I was training like a freak in Ottawa. I'm a big reps guy. I see probably like 1,500, 2,000 shots a week.
Nice.
Um, I have a mentality in my head that you started lacrosse when you were 16 years old, when guys your age started when they were 4, and they went to all these travel teams, they went to all these prep schools, right? They have 10 years, 12 years of extra lacrosse on you. So you are going to make up for that by seeing 10 to 12 years of reps in the time that you have.
Right.
So there's never a day that I don't want to see shots or get better, because like I'll be damned if my late start is going to be a limiting circumstance to how far I go with this sport. And yeah, so just having the caliber, right? Like we have a group chat, and I just message, boys, shots today, shots today, shots today, and you're guaranteed getting NLL, MLL, PLL, Junior A, like caliber players coming out and just shooting on me, right? Simon, where do you want them from? Wing, alley, sweep, X? And I'm like, all right. So, you know what I mean? Being down here, having the exposure to these players, honestly, the sky is the limit, as long as I let that be the limit, because those guys will always be there to make me better. I just need to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Awesome. When you have those shooting sessions, are you working on something in particular? Or is it just like I just want to see shots, I want to get the experience, I want to see the rubber, I want to get used to balls at this velocity, I want to get used to shots down the I want to get, all the types of shots, or what's kind of your approach to these shooting sessions?
Definitely something particular.
Okay.
I'm very well past the point of just, I want to see shots. Like, I've gotten past that, right? It's kind of like the cake and then the icing, right? The
Yeah.
cake is your like, get used to seeing shots, build that baseline skill, and that's how you make a good goalie.
Yeah.
But that great goalie is defined by that icing. And that is the mastery of micro skills, right? That's the difference between a PLL goalie and just a competitive club goalie, right? Is that
Hmm.
is that is that is that mastering of micro skills, right? So when we're out there, again, like I'm my own biggest coach, right? So I'm like, all right, on this step down, don't hitch, don't hitch, don't hitch, right? Um, Always like to see on the run shots. I make the guys pass. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you're not just shooting on me. You're not just sitting there and stepping down. Like, get a pass from somebody so I can track it across my arc before
Right.
I take a shot. Um, and then yeah, like I practice everything. Like I train like every aspect of my game, but definitely like areas that I can improve on is where I like make guys shoot from there. And there's so many of them. Like there's
Sure.
guys. I have enough guys to cover every position, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I guess knowing everything that you know now, is there like a specific piece of goalie advice you'd give that younger Simon, your high school self?
Uh, I think um just younger Simon always had the work ethic, always had the love of the game, but definitely took me longer into my career to understand the mental side of things. So
Hmm.
if I could talk to my younger self, it would be like the patience, the calmness, the next goal mentality, which is probably the most important mentality a goaltender can have. Um, so these sorts of things, right? Because if we can't focus our mind, if we can't master the mental side of lacrosse, it does not matter how talented we are skill wise, because our skills will fail us if our minds fail us first.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It goes both ways too. I think like I had this one game where we're up 6-0 at halftime, right? And then like I chased out 2 consecutive shots in a row and I got like really tired, like physically tired, you know? And then I just lost it mentally. And then I gave up a goal. And then it was like, well, we're still up 6-1, but I just like, I couldn't get it back together and we end up getting smoked. It goes both ways. It's really interesting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So then let's talk a little bit about, so you've been doing some coaching of goalies like in the area and sort of been getting, it sounds very similar to my story where you're doing some coaching and then you kind of get sick of answering the same question over and over and you kind of want to, just get out the content. So when someone asks you that question, you can just be like, hey, just read this blog post or check out this Instagram post. I did, but you started standout goaltending. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's called Stand Tall Goaltending.
Sorry.
Correct.
Stand Tall Goaltending. Yep.
So Stand Tall Goaltending is like, I coach up here in St. Catharines in the Niagara region, but it's also I'm trying to make it a big Instagram resource just for any of those goalies out there, right, that don't have access to, in-person goalie coaching can go and get some drills, some mental tricks, and the technical side of the game, right? So I got asked to coach a program up here in Niagara called the Snowbirds. I was working with the goalies. One of the young goalies asked for some extra help on the weekend. So I said, absolutely. And I'm coaching him and I'm realizing, I'm like, man, I always knew I knew a lot about the game. But when you start saying it out loud to somebody, you're like, man, like I got to do something with all this knowledge. So I was on the fence. I'm not a huge Instagram social media guy, but I said, you know what the heck? I have so much to say. Right. So I made this Instagram account, Instagram resource for goalies out there looking to better their game. And, called it Stand Tall Goaltending, cause that's something my mom and my dad always told me to do. Right. My dad always tells me before games, like, stand tall, go be great. And my mom always tells me, never doubt yourself. Those are 3 things that I carry with myself every time I compete. So I thought, you know what, like Stand Tall Goaltending. Yeah, that's the name. And it's basically just an Instagram page with my favorite drills, my favorite mental strategies and mentalities, and tips, right? Like tips on angles, tips on arc play, tips on the run shots. There's videos of me taking shots, demoing like how I work on my game, how I master those micro skills, right? Those tiny little things that make all the difference. And then also, I coach in person up here and I love it. It's so much fun. We get out there on Sundays. I line them all up. I only do 1-to-1 sessions. I don't want to work with like a big group of goalies because I believe every goalie's different and that's how I coach. I never try to change a goalie's style. I never try to recreate a bunch of little me's. I think if you truly understand the sport and the position, then you can understand how to coach a goalie that isn't your style, right? Like, I know how Scott Rogers plays. I know how he trains, right? I know how, who's a big guy? Matt DeLuca. I know how he plays. Like, I know how he trains. I've heard him talk. I've seen resources on all of these like very accomplished goalies. So coach the youth based on the body type and the style of play that they have, right? If you have a big guy, coach him how to play his angles so that the ball just hits him, right?
Yeah.
Don't make him a steppy goalie. Don't make him a baiter. Don't try and make his hands, faster. Like, don't cheat him of his natural goaltending abilities, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I coach my goalies. And that's why I
Yeah.
do them all separately, because I coach every single one of them different.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you on that. You got to play to your strengths, and there's a lot of different ways to play goalie. We had Matt DeLuca on the goalie summit. I don't know. Were you able to attend that session?
I was not. It got
No.
rescheduled.
That's right. It did. Yeah. He we had to reschedule it, but he plays very like wide base. It looks, just looking at these videos, it looks like you kind of go with that style a little bit too, like a little bit wider in the base of your stance.
Yeah. I'm a wide base goalie for sure.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't have the leg span of Matt DeLuca, so I do have to keep it a little bit less wide so that I can step to the ball, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about it, the wider you get, the less of a step you have.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I definitely have I'm 6'1", so for a 6'1" guy, I have a pretty wide base. Balls of the feet. I like to play with my hands relatively close together so I can get there quick. And I have really long arms and legs, so that helps me make a lot of saves because I can cover a lot of ground real quick.
Yeah. Well, cool. Everyone should check out Stand Tall Goaltending on Instagram. One of the videos you got in here, which kind of caught my attention that I really love, is just kind of it's a video of you and like just, couple different videos. One taking shots, one just kind of doing some reps. And I'm not sure but it's like different videos of different scenarios that goalies can try out. And that's really cool. That's really cool to see. It's kind of like, here's a self-taught goalie kind of showing you his, what he does to get better. And you can just, that's what my whole like coaching career has been, is just taking things from like, the best where I can find it and implementing it to what I think works and what my style is. In terms of coaching, not overdoing someone's goalie style, but just in terms of, how I coach that goalie. So check it out. Stand Tall Goaltending.
Awesome. Thanks, Damon.
Yeah. Well, cool. This has been tons of fun. What kind of stick do you go with? What's your stick setup?
So when I was younger, I bounced around with a couple different sticks. I had Warrior, Nemesis 2s, and then I moved into the Shield. And then when the Eclipse 2 came out, I fell in love.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in the market.
Yeah.
And then I rock ECD 12 diamond wax mesh, like the OG stuff.
The older one.
Yeah, I'm convinced that's the best mesh in the game. I'm really sorry to any other company out there. I'm not trying to promote, but yeah, the wax just makes rebound control immaculate. And once it breaks in, it just holds its shape so well. The channel never crumbles. The ball never hooks, right? Because the mesh never folds over itself. It just holds its shape so wonderfully, and the rebound control and the responsiveness. Like when you're throwing an outlet, you feel that thing all the way. You feel like you feel the ball in the stick all the time. And then I usually do ghost pocket when it's fresh, because the wax, the rebound control is just, again, insane. So when the wax is fresh, I go ghost pocket, and then as it breaks in, I add 2 nylons, and then when it reaches its like maximum stage of being broken in and the wax is worn off, I throw in 2 U's. Similar to like, if for anybody out there that like watches PLL, similar to Jack Kincannon or John Galloway.
Yeah.
And then my secret sauce, Damon, is all the guys laugh at me. I use String King shafts, and then they're ranked for age groups based on their weight. And I use a shaft that's made for 9 to 12-year-olds because it's so light. It's so light, and I like, it's crazy. Like my hand speed is so fast because I just have this featherweight shaft that's made for like little kids. but it works, right? Like it works. I can throw outlets, I can make saves, but anytime I leave the crease, the guys are like, slash him. He has a kid stick.
I so I played in 1999, right? That's when I played college in 1999 is when I first started. And I used an attack shaft. And like so many, I mean, that was like back, when goalies were still using like really long shafts. Like now it's kind of more socially acceptable. And everyone made fun of me for that. But I'm like, are you kidding me? This thing is so gosh darn light in my hands. Like I could never think about going back the other way. I could see the benefit of, as a younger kid, like getting some more torque on your outlets, or having a little bit more reach to try and like pick off a pass. Those are two benefits I could see. But for me, like you said, just having like this thing that felt like a toothpick in my hand that I was just so quick with, that was what I wanted.
Yeah, no, yeah, attack shaft all the way.
All right, we're team attack shaft over here. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Simon. This has been a blast. Thanks for reaching out, making this happen. If people want to learn more about you, they can go to Stand Tall Goaltending. I'll link up to that when this comes out. I guess if you had to leave the kids out there with one last piece of advice, what would that be?
I think if I could leave the kids out there with one piece of advice, it'd be something that I tell myself every night before I go to bed. Every night before I go to bed, I tell myself, work hard, never give up, and love the game. And if you can do those three things, there is no limit to where you can go with this game.
Boom. Simon, thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right, bud. That was awesome. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Yeah,
So much.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's always fun talking shop, man. There's some great stuff. I mean, I always take notes when I do these podcasts because I love. I mean, I just love it. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, no worries, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I look forward to listening to it and listening to everything else you get going. And I'm a huge fan of everything you do, and yeah, I'm honored. I'm honored that you
yeah,
had me on.
cool. I appreciate that. I'll let you know when it comes out, and I don't know what you're doing around like July, end of June, July timeframe, but that's when I'm going to be doing the next summit. So I'll shoot you a note if you're available, if you want to teach a presentation, if that's interesting to
Oh
you.
man, of course, of course.
Okay.
I've got a couple different goalie theories that I've come up with that we didn't really get to, and it's no big deal. But yeah, when I watched a couple of the summits, and I was like, man, like I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah.
Like I have one on kind of like the triangulation, like like a triangle, and you have like something on each point, and the
Yeah.
three of them make each other like happen. It's like the triangulation of the physical aspects of lacrosse goaltending. And for me, that's hand-eye, reaction time, and muscle memory. And how that works is the ball shot, and the first thing that happens is your eyes pick it up, right? And that's the ignition. And then the reaction time is this electrical current to your muscles. And the quicker that is, the more efficient that is, the quicker we get to the last step, which is muscle memory, which is just repetition of a movement. And the cleaner and more efficient that is, like the quicker and easier it is for you to make saves. So that's how I train, like in the gym. I train hand-eye reaction time and muscle memory. So like that,
Yeah.
yeah, that was one thing that I was like, if a question comes up about this, like I'm definitely gonna spout about it a bit.
Well, let's talk about it right now. I'll go back and I'll throw it back. I'll throw it back in there. I'll edit it back in there. um, yeah. So talk to me a little bit. You were just saying that you have a specific like theory of goaltending in terms of, what we should be working on and like, how to think about training. Could you talk to me about that?
Yeah, of course. So whenever I'm in the gym or I'm on the field and I'm training, I'm looking at three key things that makes a lacrosse save happen. So those three things for me are hand-eye coordination, reaction time, and muscle memory. If these three things are working in unison, your saving ability is going to skyrocket. So the first thing that we need to train is hand-eye. So we do this with hand-eye drills. There's a bunch on my coaching Instagram that helps our eyes pick up a moving target, right? That's the first step. The second step is the reaction time. It's the acknowledgement of the stimulus, right? The acknowledgement of, oh, there's a ball coming at me. And these electrical currents are sent to your body to trigger a response. Okay. So that's the next step. So we train these through reaction time drills, cognitive training apps on your phone, et cetera, how fast we can get the brain to send the messages to your body. And then the last part that I train is muscle memory. So does your body remember what to do when that electrical current gets to your muscles? And that just comes from repetition, right? Training save movements with a resistance band, right? Different exercises, lateral jumps, agility ladder, right? Making your muscles quicker and more explosive. I do one thing I do for that, huge one for me, is shadow saves. So I will just stand in my living room and I will just visualize shots coming out, and I'll just go through that save motion: off stick high, off stick high, off stick high, off stick hip, off stick hip, right? So then if these three things are aligned, right? If your hand-eye coordination is on point, aligned with efficient, clear signaling from the brain to the muscles, and then the muscles know what to do with that information, then making a save is going to become a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's kind of like, the hand-eye coordination, like you said when we were chatting earlier, sort of like the ignition, like it fires everything. And then, there we go. So the hand-eye coordination is sort of like that ignition, like it fires everything. And what's interesting? I had a hand-eye coordination specialist, and he actually said a better name for it is eye-hand coordination, because your eye sees that stimulus, and now it's then sending that message to your body to make that movement. And then, like you said, it's, have we trained our body so that each save movement, let's call it, like each save movement is so gosh darn fluid that like we don't even have to think about it, right? We just know it's coming off hip. I've done this off hip save movement a million times, so I know it's that. It's not this awkward like and I'm off balance, or kind of like I go up and then I go over. So I think that's kind of what you're saying, a cool way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And the hand-eye guy, Arthur Leibovitz, I actually I trained with him for a little bit, and now I've actually helped him put together a lacrosse goalie hand-eye and mindfulness workshop. So that's going to be coming out soon. So it's for high level goaltenders. Mm-hmm. So any like high school or college or pro guys out there listening, like go check it out. Hand-eye coaches on Instagram, and it's going to be cool. The program.
Awesome. It's on his page, the link?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we need to do any more. I'll edit that back in.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, that was something.
Yeah, no worries. No. I mean, you never know where it's going to go or what you want to talk about. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right, bud. Well, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, up about the summit in the summer.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll probably start reaching out like in June. So it'll be a couple months, but yeah, we'll figure something out.
Excellent. Thanks again so much.
All right, man. Yep. Take care.
Have a good one.